Today's episode, Josh and I are going to cover the ever so finally exciting NBA trade deadline, the buyouts of some of the biggest teams, as well as trivia next. Welcome back to today's episode of the Two Pointers podcast. I'm Trevor.
And I'm Josh.
And we are glad to have you back. If you're new here, I'm Trevor. Like I said, this is Josh, and we cover the NBA and college basketball. Two dudes just talking about basketball and having a good time. We're going to first run through, like I mentioned at the top, we're going to run through the NBA trade deadline, which for the first time in our semi-young life that has actually been exciting. I can't remember one and put a year to it. And I want to run through some of the highlights of the trades really quickly, or just most of the ones that actually matter. There was a lot, but I am going to run through the ones that matter, and I'm going to just ask Josh and pick his brain, see what we think, talk through that, and we'll see what happens. First one at the top here, these are in no particular order of any timetable. Obviously, there was just too much going on. My Twitter notifications blowing up by Shams and Woj. Shout out to both of them. We've got Nuggets and Magic. You got Denver acquiring Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark. Orlando acquiring RJ Hampton, Gary Harris, and a first-round pick. That one's going to be probably the main talking point of most big media right now because the Nuggets are a playoff contender. Otherwise, you've got Victor Oladipo to Miami and a swap for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a first-round swap. Clippers get Rajon Rondo. Atlanta gets Lou Will. A lot of big moves here. Like I said, this is almost so much to keep up with. Chicago, another big one, gets Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu. Orlando gets Otto Porter, Wendell Carter for 2 first-round picks and gets a lot worse, in my opinion. Raptors, Blazers, Toronto gets Gary Trent and Rodney Hood. Portland gets Norman Powell. That one is going to be slept on. Norman Powell's a beast. Celtics, Magic. Boston gets Evan Fournier. Gets a little bit of a good bench depth there. Orlando gets Jeff Teague and basically a high five. 76ers, Knicks. This one actually doesn't matter. Thunder's, Knicks. Austin Rivers goes to OKC. George Hill goes to Philadelphia. Actually, that does matter. And New York gets Terrence Ferguson. And between the time it happened and the time we record on Monday, he has been waived. Pelicans, Mavs. Dallas gets a good three-point shooter in JJ Redick. New Orleans gets James Johnson and a bunch of crap. Nuggets, Cavs. JaVale goes to Denver, back to where he came from originally. And Cleveland gets Isaiah Hartenstein and some picks. That one doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter. And lastly, Bulls, Celtics. I think this one matters in the grand scheme of things. Mo Wagner goes to Boston in exchange for Daniel Tice. Why? I have no idea. Josh, that was a lot. Let's recap. What is the one that you think has the biggest playoff implication? I think that matters first.
I mean, I don't want to be too typical with it from what you said at the start, but my original thought was Aaron Gordon going to Denver makes a crowded West more crowded. So I think prior to that trade, I saw the Western Conference as kind of a 4-team race. You had Utah, Phoenix, and then both teams from LA. And after the Aaron Gordon trade, I think that the West is now a 5-team race with the Denver Nuggets. And if I'm a Lakers fan like you, I'm terrified by the fact that right now the Lakers would play the Nuggets in the first round.
I'm terrified regardless because I always thought the Nuggets were really good. Jokic is impossible to stop no matter who you put on him, Davis or not. And Jamal Murray decides to just show up in the playoffs and decide to be like the second coming of Michael Jordan, like he did last year. Granted, that was in the bubble. We'll see if he can repeat that. I'm scared regardless because obviously LeBron's out for 4 to 6 weeks as we're recording this. It's the first full week of the injury. I'm scared anyway with LeBron being out and Davis probably just intentionally being out into the playoffs. So, yeah, no, this one's huge because Aaron Gordon, I've always thought he was a great player. I will highlight this just off the top because I don't want to forget because this trade includes 2 of the 3 Garys that were traded today. I'm going to throw out an NBA fun fact. I don't do that enough on this podcast. All 3 players named Gary were traded today. Or not today. I feel like we were recording this on the day of. We're traded at the trade deadline. Gary Clark was sent to Denver. Gary Harris, ironically enough, was sent to Orlando. And I'm forgetting a Gary. Gary Trent was sent to Toronto.
We know for a fact those are the only Garys in the NBA.
Yes, because it was on NBA Twitter, and I believe everything I see on NBA Twitter.
It reminds 100%. Me of back before Indiana cut TJ Leaf this offseason. They had all 3 NBA TJs.
That was awesome. I did see that as well. The other cool fact I will say, because this trade probably won't get talked by us at probably another second, I would say, the Raptors Blazers trade, Gary Trent Jr. got traded on his 41st game in his third NBA season to Toronto from Portland. Gary Trent Sr. did the same thing.
Yeah.
I love the NBA and its history. I'm just going to say that. It's amazing, and I think it's always crazy how stuff works out like that. It's just wild to see. But Norman Powell is a really big pickup for the Blazers on a completely different tangent here. He's going to be, I think, really huge for them if they're going to get hot at the right time. They're going to be another that fifth or sixth team that you mentioned at the top there. I think we're disrespecting Portland by leaving them out. They're getting healthy at the right time, and they're really, really hot right now. Powell's going to be playing really well, I think, and he's going to be a big contributor for that.
Yeah, no, I think I think it's a good deal on both sides because I also think Gary Trent Jr. is a really good player. He's an incredible scorer for a guy that was a second-round pick who's really showed out in Portland and was the third option, stepped up as a third option towards the end of last season and when Nurkic got hurt. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be interesting for Portland. For me to think Portland's a contender, I'm just going to need to see more consistency long-term from them. But yeah.
What you got next? What you want to cover? I've got one, but I think it's coming eventually. It's impending that we cover this.
Because I'm figuring that you're talking about covering Oladipo, but let's go down the Magic blowing it up road first and then wrap around to that.
Okay. I'm so down for that.
So, okay, did you think that Nikola Vucevic was going to go to the Chicago Bulls? Of all the teams? I thought he was going
west, and I thought possibly
you always
Portland.
Think we're going west.
No, I thought he was going. I really thought Portland was going to throw a package like they did for Powell. Like I thought they were going to try to get like 3 cents or 3/4 on the dollar for him in some sort of like big man death thing. That was like my prediction, but I knew he was going west, or I thought he was going west. Not new. I thought he was going west, but I'm surprised that Chicago. I think Chicago's understanding to the fact that I don't think they're kind of like almost the Knicks in the sense that they're not going to sign a big free agent probably. I think it's like, I feel like we're past that point with Chicago. I think they understand that, but they also understand that they can't really compete otherwise unless they go out and get a guy like that. And they honestly didn't pay too much for him, if you ask me. I don't think they paid too much for him. They got rid of an Otto Porter guy and a guy like Otto Porter that I'm just quite frankly not that high on, never have been since his draft. As well as Wendell Carter. I mean, we've been wanting this dude to shoot more since he was his senior year in high school. We've been wanting this Wendell Carter guy to sit here and, he's going to keep doing it. He's going to have that moment event. Like he hasn't had it, unfortunately. And I mean, the 2 first-round picks, it is what it is. Those picks aren't going to convey anything crazy, I'm sure. But Vucevic is even Aminu, if they keep him, it's a great trade altogether. Chicago wins this. I don't think it's even close. And all I'm going to say about the Magic point is, I don't even want to like digress too much on them because they're literally rebuilding a rebuild. Like it sucks. Well, sorry, Magic fans, if you are out there.
Okay, before I take the time to shine a light on what the Magic have done, I will say it was interesting because going like even right now, Chicago is in a position where they're halfway in between deciding they want to jump into the mediocre middle pack of the Eastern Conference playoff race or race for the number 1 pick. Like they were about 3 games in between each with their record. They could race for number 1 or jump into the playoff race. And I mean, I think it's encouraging. I like seeing that a team's trying to compete again, especially like Chicago. They're really going for it all here. Bringing in Vucevic. And did you say that it was Chicago also got Tice?
No, they got Aminu.
They got Aminu. Well, what was the other trade?
Alfred Aminu. The other trade that involved the Magic or involved the Bulls? I don't see another Bulls trade. Just kidding. They got Mo Wagner. I'm just kidding. They got Daniel Tice. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, they did get Daniel Tice. So talking about the
yes, they did.
Bulls.
Sorry.
I did think it was a bit odd. They went and got 2 big men. Well, one, I guess they got one whole great big man because they got one that's great at offense and one that's great at defense.
I'll tell you what was odd about that trade. It has nothing to do with Chicago. It has everything to do with the fact that Boston deciding to get rid of the guy that's been playing 70% of their center minutes other than Tristan Thompson. And I guess they're going to start Tatum at the 5. I don't really know. They're going to start freaking Walker at the 5. Celtics are going to run out of choices. I mean, unless they thought they were going to get a buyout guy. Did they think they were really in the Drummond sweepstakes, which we'll cover in a moment? No, probably not. Like, what are they doing? Mo Wagner, really? Like, he was a former Laker. Like, there's a reason he's getting like passed around, no question. Like, Daniel Tice is a better player than him, and he shouldn't be. He shouldn't have left. Like, I just don't understand. Like, Thompson's probably going to turn it on him. I'm probably going to regret everything I'm saying now. But I'm confused. That's all.
All I'm going to say is I haven't had to compliment a Celtics roster decision this year yet, and I still don't. So
I'm not complimenting Evan Fournier, by the way. I'm just saying it's not a bad choice. They made up for it slightly, in the sense that he's at least a better player off the bench than they're having right now. Yeah, he's a better shooter than the guys that they went out and, Pritchard and Neesmith, like guys that they thought were going to turn into what Evan Fournier already is 8 to 10 years into his career. So, yeah I'm happy. Otherwise, if I'm a Celtics fan, I'm not excited for the playoffs. I'm not excited to play Milwaukee or play any other team, quite frankly, that they're going to run them off the floor in probably 5 games.
I mean, if they get in right now, Boston's sitting in that sweet play-in tournament spot. So
exactly. I'm scared if I'm a Boston fan right now. Granted, I wouldn't want, if I was a team that had to play Boston and play in right now, I mean, who would they be playing right now, technically?
Miami in the play-in.
Yeah, nah. If I'm Boston, I want to get out that spot. That's not the team you want to catch right now after getting in. This is a perfect segue, unless you have something else. We can cover it after. This is a perfect segue. I'm not the guy to say I'd be excited to be playing right now. The Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo led Miami Heat. Holy cow, did we underestimate them? Both of us were on record and we were underestimating them because of the COVID stuff and injuries, and we almost hit the panic button. And we knew they'd eventually recover. And they're probably, I'm not saying they're the favorite in the East, obviously, because you've got the Nets and the Bucks, but they're definitely going to ride every bit of the momentum they have from getting a guy like Oladipo and from last year. And they're going to be really scary. And they're honestly going to be a lot more of a competitor than I think we thought originally.
So I'm still down on the Heat. Yet, like, on paper,
have more?
What?
Can I please have more? I want to know why.
So this Butler, Bam, and Depot thing sounds great on paper. And
100%.
But people are hanging a lot on Victor Oladipo, who was an all-star. So, I mean, nothing like looking down on Victor Oladipo. The guy was an all-star. I don't know if he's been at that all-star level since he got hurt. And also there's the situation of Miami still doesn't look that great. To be frank, I watched them lose to Charlotte again this week. So unless you're afraid of Charlotte as a contender in the Eastern Conference, I wouldn't be afraid of Miami as one either. Because I'll be frank, I don't think Charlotte is a contender in the Eastern Conference, and I think they've been decidedly better than Miami this season.
100%. I'm scared to play Charlotte right now. Like, I've been on record multiple times to you and to everybody that listens to this podcast, all 400 of you right now. Shout out to all of you. That I think he's going to be. I think they are going to be scary if you play them in that 5 to 8 window. I mean, quite frankly, I don't want them to have a playing game because I think they're going to beat whoever they play. I think they could really scare somebody.
Well, it's funny because right now the first round matchup at 4-5 is what I'm calling the 2020 lottery battle between the Charlotte Hornets and the New York Knicks. So
I love that. I also would like to point out one that I think is going to go under the radar only because of his age. And I think you know where I'm going. And it is Mr. Rajon Rondo. I am very clearly very high on Rondo as someone who had to compete against him, whose team had to compete against him in the 08, 09, and 10 playoffs against my Lakers. He was a best, and he was awesome, and he was amazing, and triple-double machine, and he was the best leader for that team outside of Garnett. However, believe it or not, as much as I think they basically traded for him as a veteran presence, and I almost wish I should have seen this coming when he went to Atlanta. I said that they paid for him, and that was the only reason he went there, and the ever so famously unreleased 2.5-hour pod that we recorded that will never see the light of day for the second episode in a row we mentioned it. But Rondo, believe it or not, I think they may miss Lou Will more than they'll need Rondo. I know it sounds ridiculous, but Lou Will is going to be a scorer that they may need coming down the stretch off the bench when Pat Beverly's going to be a guard that's going to play a bunch. How are you going to play Rondo and Pat Beverly together? I don't think you are, unless you really want a 2-guard lineup and a 2-forward lineup, and then insert whatever center here. I just don't. I don't know if rotationally it's going to make the most sense in the second or third round of the playoffs. But we're going to find out if Lou Will is going to be missed ever so heavily. I think he's going to be missed more than they, I think, realize yet.
Well, I know that. So Lou Williams has been playing off the bench, which big shocker. The greatest sixth man in history is playing off the bench, but yeah, I think the Clippers can make it work. The Rondo thing is definitely we're making this for the playoffs move, because in flying in the face of all reason, Rajon Rondo somehow becomes one of the top 10 point guards in the NBA once it hits playoff time. He's not that in the regular season, but once it hits playoff time, suddenly he's just unstoppable. So, I mean, I think the Clippers are banking on that happening, and honestly, not a bad bet to take, I don't think.
Are you telling me? Hold on, I'm gonna back up. I agree with you on the playoff record thing. I'm not digressing any more than this. But did Jamal Crawford die and I not realize it? Lou Will, the greatest what? Did Jamal Crawford die? Did I miss something?
I think Lou Will has an argument to go at Jamal Crawford.
He has an argument, but it's not over yet. He's got to continue to be a good playoff player, which I think scares me because now, granted, this is the first time we've been recording since Atlanta is now. I don't even have the standings in front of me. Last time I looked at the standings when I was doing some just general weekend research, they were fifth when I looked last time. So fifth, sixth, like we were writing them off, like you specifically even more were writing them off about 3 weeks ago. Now, granted, so was I. We both were, but
I did write.
Holy cow! Yeah, I mean, we did, and look, I mean, the East. We also do. Dude, we got to admit though, like, come on, the East is basically like it's 1, 2, 3, and then just might as well honestly flip a coin for the other 8 spots, whatever, right? Other handful of spots.
Yeah, after 3, it's like that. Those next 7 teams are like right there.
Yeah,
this next 7.
I do want to mention this just because I think it is important. So do you agree with Philadelphia going with George Hill in a 3-team trade versus going for Kyle Lowry? How close do you think they were? Should they have thrown in Maxey? Whatever you think. Just out of curiosity.
Who did Philly give up again?
They gave up for George Hill, you mean?
Yeah.
So the trade was Philadelphia got George Hill, Iggy Brazdeikis. OKC got Austin Rivers, Tony Bradley, and 2 second-round picks, and New York got Terrence Ferguson. If I understand that trade correctly, they literally gave up Tony Bradley and 2 second-round picks. I'm confused what they missed. Like, what am I missing here? Who was George Hill on? I don't even understand now. He was in Oklahoma City. So who did they give up in that?
George Hill was in New Orleans.
See, I did too. What? So they could. You're telling me they could have. I mean, okay. Now, granted, I guess devil's advocate here. Did they go with George Hill because they knew they could get him for 2 cents on the dollar, not 25 cents? I guess Kyle Lowry they could have had to give him Maxey. I think that's probably No.
I think Kyle Lowry. Based on the rumors I heard, like the prices going there for Kyle Lowry were really high. I heard rumors about because I know the Lakers were looking at Lowry for a period of time. And I heard rumors that the Raptors were trying to grab Dennis Schroeder in a Kyle Lowry trade. So I think the Raptors were just going for an incredibly high price.
Lakers Twitter was going bananas because they wanted Schroeder out of town so fast if they thought they could get 1 year of Lowry to secure a championship. And I couldn't have disagreed more.
I think Schroeder is better than Lowry right now.
Period.
But not forget the down the line part. Right now, Dennis Schroeder's a better player.
100% agree with you. Now, Philadelphia, I think their team is fine because how would Lowry fit with Simmons and Embiid? I don't know. I think he would have definitely been the 6th man or the bench point guard, however you want to put that. I just don't see that making sense. And I'm not surprised Daryl Morey didn't pull the trigger. Right? He knows he's probably going to be in that job for at least a few more years, and he knows Maxey's going to be pretty good. I'm happy that they didn't go for him. I love Daryl Morey to death. I think I love Dork Elvis. Shout out to Dork Elvis, but I'm excited in the sense that I still think they're going to be really good, and I'm glad they didn't give up anything that's going to help them in the playoffs. I think Maxey's going to help them in the playoffs. Last question.
There's also the thing that Ben Simmons also plays point guard.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying. Lowry
we don't want to mess up the system too much.
100%. Last question: is Kyle Lowry the greatest Raptor of all time?
Excuse me?
I don't agree with
What
it. Let
made
me.
you go after Vince Carter like that? Like,
I
what
don't agree
the?
with it.
And Chris Bosh and
Let me go on the record. I don't agree with it, but Twitter really, really thought it was the case.
I mean, if the like, are
I'm
they
so
going to make the
serious.
argument that he's because he won a title in Toronto? Then if they're going to do
100%.
that, say Kawhi Leonard's the best Raptor ever.
100%. And if they somehow win another one with Van Fleet being the starting point guard in 8 years like Lowry did,
When
they're
I
going to say
think
Van Fleet was the
Toronto
greatest Raptor.
Raptors all time, if I'm thinking like the guy that I think is the face of the Toronto Raptors, when I'm thinking all time, I think Vince Carter. I'm not going to think Kyle Lowry.
The only caveat I have to that, I agree in the sense that he's the face, I think. But the only thing is he basically James Hardened his way out of town. He was the James Harden before James Harden was James Harden now, and the way of how you got yourself out of town. He basically won one or two playoff series in total and said, you trade me or I'm not playing. It was that simple. And I think
So
that
are you
was put a lot of
arguing
bad
that?
taste. No,
Are you
I'm
arguing
not.
loyalty is the thing for?
No, I'm
The
not saying that.
greatest
I
player
just
in
think
history?
you do in the greatest player in a team's history conversation, you should at least consider it in that. And I think that is why Lowry is a lot higher on that list. I think a guy that goes underrated there is Damon Stoudemire. He was one of like the first Raptors in terms of he was very early on that team. He was really good, but he's not NBA great. And I don't think he'll be Raptor great either. Just a thought. Anything outside of the trades? I feel like we're like just completely skipping over the fact that Victor Oladipo, like, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think the Heat are going to be good, but I mean, is Milwaukee still your pick out of the East? You texted me 4 days ago. I don't think it changed. Yeah, I didn't think so.
As of right now, I like Milwaukee, then I like Philadelphia, then I like Brooklyn.
I'm glad you came around to Philadelphia. And I don't know if that's a perfect transition to talk about Aldridge, but I will say one thing before we talk about the buyout, since we're a little early. I do want to say this. I've always been high on RJ Hampton, and I think it's going to be a really awesome opportunity for him to really fight for some playing time behind Fultz and Anthony in Orlando. I'm excited for him for his new journey. He's a guy I've always been high on. I've always thought RJ Hampton was going to be a pretty good NBA player. So far, I've been wrong, but I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong when he gets down there and actually fights for some playing time. Again, anything else? I think we covered pretty much anything that made sense. A couple of ones I didn't read was Troy Brown to Chicago for Daniel Gafford and Chandler Hutchison, which kind of surprised me because those are two Chicago players that have been there quite a while. I guess they were finally ready to get rid of them. Miami also got Bjelica as well. And that one's actually pretty big because it's a bench shooter and some depth there. They only gave up Harkless, who they basically paid 5 cents for 1 year at the offseason here. Otherwise, I don't think anything major. A shout out to JaVale McGee for coming back to Denver. I'm sure Denver fans are ever so delighted to watch him run around. He's obviously not the same guy he was back then.
Honestly, another good thing for Denver to have JaVale McGee.
Absolutely. Just depth, man. He's going to be there, and he's going to be able to put his hands up and play defense. I mean, that's what it is. He's a great player in that sense. Player. Absolutely.
He's won rings.
I will say one thing that we kind of brushed over that I just reminded myself about by reading this again. Dallas is really trying to bolster this ever so Band-Aid repaired roster with JJ Redick, which, by the way, his last year with the Pelicans last year was the first time he ever missed the playoffs. So obviously I think he's going to help them make the playoffs and stay in the playoffs as long as they possibly can. But is he really going to be enough? Maybe. They're trying to they realize that they can't replace Seth Curry that easily, so they had to give up their $17 million worth James Johnson, Luka's bodyguard, Wesley Iwundu, and a second-round pick. I think they got him for a good price.
Well, yeah, James Johnson's doesn't mean he's way too big a contract for what he provides.
$17 million bodyguard for Luka.
But so remind me, about a month ago, we had a ranting podcast where we talked about how the Dallas Mavericks desperately needed a big man. So at the trade deadline, they traded for JJ Redick.
Yes.
Essentially the new generation. And I'm about to say the new generation version of this guy is not retired yet. So I don't know why I'm about to say this, but the new generation version of Kyle Korver.
Yeah, it's crazy to think Kyle Korver's not retired. That's a good point. What I will say,
like he should have been.
I am going to throw this out there. I'm not going to say I'm plugged in any way, but I am on Twitter a lot, and I'm on a lot of, I follow a lot of people that cover a lot of the different NBA teams. One that I really thought was going to happen, and I'm glad it didn't because it would have broken my heart. I really think Dallas thought they were getting Drummond. If you remember a couple years ago when Drummond was originally available, they were the front runner to sign him upcoming. If they did, they were really going to try to go after him like they did DeAndre Gordon, as well as they really thought they were going to get him in a trade a few years ago. I think it came pretty close in the offseason, but I think Dallas was truly thinking they were going to get Andre Drummond. I didn't see a ton about it, but I definitely saw some stuff about it, and I was really not surprised that he picked LA, and ultimately because of I don't think Aldridge going to the Nets had anything to do with it, which we can just totally transition into that if you don't have anything else about the trades. But I think they truly thought they were getting Drummond.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of teams thought they were getting Drummond, to be fair. A lot of teams wanted him for good reason. But, hey, props to the Lakers. They went out and got borderline the best rebounder in the NBA, other than Clint Capella.
Over the last 5 years, definitely has been.
Yeah.
If you follow him on Twitter, or if you are on Twitter, I know you're on our account, obviously a ton. So am I. The thing is, we should have known Drummond was going to the Lakers a long time ago, because
I definitely knew that.
He 100%. He tweeted in 2011. In 2011, he tweeted, and I quote, "I would love to one day play with Mr. King James."
He tweeted with or against, to be fair.
With or, he did say that, but
yeah,
I mean, it is what it is. He had the choice. He chose.
I mean, he was going to go to a contender, and I mean, he's been, in Detroit most of his career through a post Billups Wallace Detroit for his entire career. Hey, let him go to a place where he's going to play in the playoffs.
I appreciate you for just throwing me free Detroit Pistons lobs. I just, it's like you know what to do now. Like, it's like you understand me. You understand me, and you know to throw me free Detroit Pistons lobs. The terrible Pistons. Anyway, next. I think we already started talking about Drummond.
I wanted to talk about the Aldridge thing.
Okay.
Because when I saw Aldridge sign with Brooklyn, one, I wasn't that surprised, but it was just kind of the first thing that popped in my mind, kind of made me laugh, but it also does seem, because I'm not high on Brooklyn, and this will, with what I thought of here, will make you understand why. With them now getting Aldridge, this feels like to me that offseason where the Lakers went and signed Steve Nash and Dwight Howard to bring in with Kobe and Powell. This thing that just looks like the most, you're upset right now. It looks like the most ridiculous lineup that nobody can stop on paper, and it just bombs hard. And it just, and with Steve Nash being the coach of the Nets, it just all feels so familiar.
Yes, I still have somewhere in the bottom drawer of some desk somewhere. I still have that Sports Illustrated cover with Kobe, Steve Nash, and Dwight Howard on it. And I want to find it now.
The best player on that team was Powell, and they didn't even put him on the cover.
I know. I want to find that cover after you mentioning this and burn that to forever get rid of that memory, because I thought I had lived that memory down. Thank you for that. I think Aldridge going to the Nets. I agree with you. I was surprised. I really was, actually. I'll be honest. Because then again, I don't really know where he was going. I had heard Miami a ton. I'd seen Miami a ton. Like I'd seen Miami all over the place, which after looking back at it, I really don't think that would have made sense. But
he was always going to insert contender here, which nowadays that usually just means Brooklyn or one of the LA teams.
Right. I'm surprised though. Like it seems like the Clippers don't. I mean, obviously they went out and got Rondo, but I mean, I'm surprised they didn't make a bigger splash. I mean, I feel like that team they're not falling apart by any means, but are they truly the contender we thought? Maybe George and Kawhi can pull it out.
I would say I don't think that the Clippers are worse than we thought. I think the West is better than I thought, because I didn't see Utah and Phoenix being as good as they are.
So I will say this, unless do you have anything else about either the trade deadline or the buyouts? Anything major?
No, I think that covers it all.
Okay. You already said favorite in the East, favorite in the West.
For me, Utah.
So right now it's Utah, Milwaukee for you.
As of right now, that could change.
I am going to stick. Man, I had LA Brooklyn pretty early on. If I want to stick with LA Brooklyn so bad, but I'm going to tell you why I'm going to deviate from that. Right now, just based on how teams are playing and who I'm believing in and who I think can get it done, if everyone's healthy, I think I would love to see, and I think it actually may happen. I'm going to say Phoenix and Philadelphia.
That'd be interesting.
solely based on health of Embiid and Paul.
Yeah.
Before we go to trivia, I do have one more thing that's not NBA that I think we need to mention before we move into trivia. As of 1 minute ago, Houston reaches its first Final Four since 1984 with a 67-61, close game, by the way, win over 12 seed Oregon State. Shout out to Oregon State for making it that far. No one thought they were going to make it that far. Pac-12 champ. Pac-12 is disgusting. UCLA obviously beat Alabama. UCLA's got a trip to make it to the Final Four coming up here soon. Just wanted to mention that because we will not be mentioning college basketball in this pod otherwise, probably.
So what we're saying is that this is the first Houston team since Viceland Jim to make the Final Four. I'll hold for applause. Thank you.
I'm not editing applause, I can tell you that. So
hey, I called it. That's
right.
all I'm saying.
This team, they scared you in the first round, did they not? But they,
absolutely. I was not confident after the first weekend.
Now, look,
good thing their whole division fell apart. Their whole region fell apart.
They do look really good. I think they're going to scare Baylor if Baylor makes it. I think they're going to really give Baylor. That's going to be a heck of a game. I did mention that because we aren't going to cover it. Like I said, we're not going to cover any of the Sweet 16 Elite Eight because we're just going to. Most exciting part's going to be the Elite Eight and the Final Four, and we'll actually be recording the night of the championship either prior or after the game. So you'll hear our opinions on the end of the college basketball season next week. What you got for trivia? Unless you got something else for me.
All right, trivia time. So where the scoreboard currently stands, I lead 1-0. I did not get enough of the right answers last week on Trevor's Elgin Baylor question, and he did not get the most minutes played. I believe a couple back, he didn't realize that Julius Randle had played more than anyone in the NBA. But I'm giving Trevor the opportunity to score 3 points this week. I think he'll probably take the lead over me, but we will see. I don't think he'll get all three.
So record-wise, I'm 0-1 because this is my second trivia, correct?
Yes.
And you're 1-1. Got it. Mm-hmm. All right. Overall record-wise, I do want to track it. I think it'd be kind of fun. I'm excited.
So you'll get a win on the record if you get all of these right. But for scoreboard purposes, and I expect a trivia question next week with more than 1 point opportunity, just to let you know there.
I got you.
But you're going to have an opportunity for 3 points. I wanted to do something in the theme of the podcast trade-wise, and I could not find anything that I thought was difficult enough. So it has nothing to do with that.
Because I think I have a pretty good NBA history brain when it comes to like trades and signings. I think I'm pretty good.
So this is just a weird random fact.
Great. Here we go.
In 1987, 1988 in the NBA.
What the heck? Okay.
In the 1987-88 season, one team in the NBA rostered both the tallest and shortest NBA players in NBA history at the same time.
You can stop right there.
No, listen to the whole question so you know what you have to answer, the 3 parts.
Go ahead.
You have to name both players
the team,
the name of the team that year.
Okay. I'm going to I can probably name their heights too. Would you like me to name their heights for a bonus 4th point?
If you get both heights right, you get the bonus 4th point.
Wait, so this is a 3 point. So if I get the team, the people, and so hold on. So this is the only question. Am I understanding that right?
Yep.
Okay. It's Muggsy Bogues and Manute Bol.
Okay, you got 2 points.
That's point number.
You get those right.
That's point 1 and 2, right? They were the Washington Bullets.
Oh, there you go.
And they are 7'6" and 5'3". Look it up. Give me my points.
So you got 3 points. Manute Bol is 7'7".
Oh, he
was taller than Yao Ming, who was.
Who am I thinking about? No, I'm thinking about somebody else. Who am I? Oh, Taco's 7'6", isn't he? I'm thinking about Taco. I think maybe that's what I was thinking. 7'6". He's the most recent. Okay, well, that's probably what I was thinking of. Dang it, man. Hey, you probably didn't think I'd get that, but the only reason I thought
you would. I did not think that you would know that it was the Washington Bullets.
There's a famous photo of them in a Bullets uniform.
I'm looking at it.
Before. Yeah, it's the photo I'm referring to. Yep, with the 3 basketballs. There it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I got that question. Well, awesome. So technically points wise,
3-1.
Okay, so what are we at now? It's 3-1.
Although I technically think I should get 1 point for knowing Wilt Chamberlain last week. That's just me.
You can have it. That's fine.
Okay,
but we're doing overall record of the. We're doing overall record.
Yeah, overall record. We're both 1-1, but we'll call it 3-2.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll do a season tally. How about that? I do want to end with this, and because I think it's always good, with the world, with a lot of crazy things going on. I do want to end something with something positive, unless you've got something else. Carl Anthony Sr. attended his first game since his wife Jacqueline died from COVID-19 today, and I thought that was really neat. And the video kind of put me into a better feeling state of mind seeing that. I thought that was really neat after all the struggles that Cat and his family went through. Just wanted to say shout out to Cat and shout out to their family. I thought that was really neat. Anything else?
No, I think there's no better way to end the podcast than on that one.
All right. Well, officially the shortest episode of the Two Pointers podcast at some 30 odd minutes. I'm excited to cover college basketball, whether it's right after the Final Four. I think it'd be fun, or right before, however we end up doing it. I think it'll be really, really cool regardless. We get to kind of very happily put a bow on the end of the college basketball season that we, quite frankly, two months ago, we might not have thought it would have been completed. And I'm happy to say that we did. Round it out.
This has been the Two Pointers podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Trevor.
And we will see you soon.
See ya.